They called them lavender saddles, polished bright for the cameras while the riders bled in silence. Nashville loved a spotless picture. Rhinestones sparkling under church lights, hand-holding in front-row pews, smiles wider than Opry stages. What fans didn't see were contracts slid across desks at midnight, whispered ultimatums, quiet exchanges of rings that meant safety instead of sparks. One songwriter told a friend, "I'll marry a name before I bury my career." Another slammed a hotel door on her wedding night and never reopened it. Tonight we peel back the gloss and walk halls where reputations were stitched tighter than any rhinestone suit, where survival meant nodding yes while your heart begged to run. How many hits were really lullabies for secrets? How many photographs hid the real partner just outside the frame? Wilma Burgess strides in first, unashamed yet strategic, the way a woman moves when compromise stops at the edge of her microphone. Owen Bradley wanted standard boy meets girl lyrics. Wilma insisted on phrasing that wrapped everyone and no one in the same warm blanket. Gender neutrality became both armor and invitation. She cut records that let her love breathe without naming it, and radio spun them because ambiguity sells. She bought Patsy Klein's old house like a talisman, furnishing it with laughter from women the press dismissed as roommates. When executives hinted a staged romance could boost her spins, she shrugged and opened a nightclub instead, a low-lit refuge where queer women danced without ducking cameras. Nashville pretended not to notice, but whispers traveled faster than any tour bus. She never married for show, and that refusal made her legend and cautionary tale at once. Patsy Klein felt those walls too, though hers shook for different reasons. She could split a heart in 3 syllables, yet late-night letters and hushed calls hinted at a softer attachment to a young protege the world boxed up as sisterhood. Maybe it was mentorship. Maybe it was the kind of bond you only name to yourself on a long bus ride when the window turns into a mirror. 2 marriages, equal parts fire and fragility, never solved the ache. She told friends she was trapped by picket fence expectations, a polite phrase for a cage with floral curtains. Then the plane went down, and rumors froze mid-sentence. Diaries stayed locked, truths blurred into folklore, and fans crowned her saint of heartbreak without knowing what really cracked her heart. Jim Nabors technically belonged to television, but his syrupy baritone and small-town charm tied him to country crowds. One day, a prankster printed a mock wedding notice pairing him with Rock Hudson. Joke or not, it detonated like a snare hit. Studio lawyers sprinted, phones rang off hooks, and Jim vanished behind a thicker curtain. Hawaii replaced Nashville as refuge, a place where he could hold the hand he wanted without a flashbulb catching it. He never married a woman for show, yet the panic proved how quickly a rumor could yank a career by the collar. In an era when secrecy equaled employment, even a fake headline felt like a loaded gun pointed at your paycheck. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans sold America a postcard, clean sunsets, blended families, inspirational paperbacks stacked beside Bibles on the coffee table. Love? Probably. Marketing? Absolutely. Contracts carried morality clauses longer than their movie scripts. Publicists scheduled surprise kisses and charity photo ops to renew the myth every quarter. Off-camera, friends said their rooms looked like adjoining offices more than honeymoon suites. Maybe affection grew because shared missions often do. Maybe the first vows were inked by accountants, not cupids. Either way, the image made millions, and once an image makes millions, you protect it like a crown jewel, even if it means hiding every crack with another rehearsed smile. Johnny Ray came before rock and roll and cried his way into legend. Audiences saw raw nerve endings. Executives saw both a gold mine and a PR minefield. He married a woman for a brief stretch, a tidy ribbon the press could tie around him, then a late-night arrest for so-called disorderly conduct in a restroom-lit gossip like a fuse. The label drowned it with relentless tour dates, interviews, a new single every month, anything to keep papers busy. Johnny kept weeping on stage and grinning backstage, but the mask pinched tighter. Vulnerability made him famous. Vulnerability also made him a target. He sang the pain so the public wouldn't see its cause. Long before Johnny, Vernon Dalhart paved the industry's first concrete roads. A pioneer who hauled country sounds onto shellac in the 1920s, he married young and stayed married. But old letters hint the union read more like a contract than a romance. Business first, tenderness optional. He could croon about lonesome trains while riding one to a promotional stop, wife at home counting royalties. Historians digging through trunks found affectionate notes to someone else entirely. Was it longing? Was it boredom? The correspondence doesn't label it, because back then even paper could betray you. Dalhart's story shows the template for respectable facades was stamped early, long before rainbow flags fluttered on Lower Broadway. Billy Tipton didn't just fake a chapter, he rewrote the whole book. Assigned female at birth, he lived as a man so completely that partners, kids, and bandmates never questioned it. He told each lover an old rib injury made him sensitive and private. Suits and binders, carefully folded identities, hotel rooms booked under names that matched the tie instead of the certificate. He hustled gigs in smoky clubs, stacked vinyl in cardboard sleeves, paid mortgages, and tucked children into bed. When paramedics finally unwrapped the secret after a collapse, headlines treated him like a circus trick. Decades later, a new wave reframed him as a pioneer of living truth on his own terms. The point wasn't fooling anyone, the point was surviving in a world that made honesty lethal to livelihoods. Luther Perkins rarely spoke on camera. Johnny Cash's guitar man stayed in the pocket, let Boom Chicka Boom do the talking. He married, had kids, kept schedules, and offered so little public emotion that the void attracted speculation. Colleagues half joked that Luther locked his feelings in the same case as his Fender and only cracked it to tune. Then a house fire took him early, and whatever truths he held turned to smoke with the drywall. In Nashville, silence is clay. Folks molded into whatever shape fits their story. Some painted Luther lonely, others painted him devoted. The real portrait burned away before anyone could ask the right questions. Chelly Wright grew up on those cautionary tales and followed the road signs. Date a man, smile for photos, keep answers vague at radio lunches, talk about weddings the way you talk about weather, pleasant, harmless, forgettable. Meanwhile, panic attacks crushed her in supermarket aisles. She sobbed in parking lots, whispered truth to therapists between sessions in the studio, prayed the scaffolding wouldn't collapse mid-tour. In 2010, she finally set it straight, wrote it down, filmed it. Let cameras see her shake. Some stations slammed doors, others quietly turned the volume up. She married the woman she loved, raised a family, and looked back at the wreckage with rage and relief. Her courage cracked the rhinestone ceiling, but shards still fall on newcomers. So why the disguises? Money is the root, fear is the water, tradition is the fertilizer. Labels dreaded angry program directors and boycotts from congregations. Managers feared losing their 10%. Fans feared seeing themselves reflected in an idol's eyes. And under every contract sat an artist, terrified of abandonment. Imagine kissing a stranger on a red carpet because a press release needed a photo. Imagine slipping on a ring because silence pays worse than a lie. Imagine loving someone who has to duck out of frame every time the photographer lifts his lens. Not every arrangement lacked warmth. Convenience can grow roots deep enough to trip you decades later. Roy and Dale built ministries, charities, entire living myths together. Hollywood couples outside our honky-tonk lane formed chosen families, travel companions, co-conspirators against columnists. Companionship is still companionship, even when desire points elsewhere. The sin wasn't inventing unconventional households. The sin was forcing people to pretend they hadn't. When a human heart needs a marketing plan, the marketplace has already gone too far. We, the audience, weren't spotless either. We devoured magazines that nudged and winked. We shared clippings, repeated gossip, clicked headlines accusing unnamed stars of secret lifestyles. Different coast, same appetite. The Opry crowd and the studio crowd both sold fantasy, and we paid in attention. Curiosity without compassion is a spotlight that burns. Every mystery companion caption fed the beast. Every time we demanded proof instead of empathy, another artist tightened a closet door and swallowed another piece of themselves. Listen again to the lyrics that built your playlists. Hear how many dodge pronouns, lean on darlin', talk about love without describing a body. That wasn't just poetic shorthand, that was armor. Wilma did it on purpose. Others did it by instinct. When truth could torpedo distribution, vocabulary shrank to fit a narrow channel. A line like, "I can't hold you tonight," wears three meanings at once: the public story, the private ache, and the warning bell to anyone who might guess too much. Even so, talent bulldozed barriers. Patsy's voice is still immortal. Wilma carved a sanctuary. Johnny Ray turned open nerves into theater nobody could forget. Tipton raised children who loved their dad. Chelly lit a beacon others now follow. Luther's riffs echo in every cover band trying to nail Cash's groove. People adapt because hearts are stubborn and creativity finds cracks in any wall. But adaptation doesn't erase the bruises from smashing into that wall, and resilience doesn't mean the bricks were ever fair. The hidden invoice is brutal. Lovers erased from photographs, partners introduced as cousins at funerals, contracts that banned someone from bringing the person they love to an awards show, songs narrowed to pass gatekeepers, minds warped by years of self-editing. Some numbed the pain with bottles and powders when secrets swallowed them whole. Some late-night drives ended badly. We say, "What a waste," without naming the machine that did the wasting. Blaming the era is easy. Dismantling the habits that survived the era is harder. So what changes now? We start by listening without prying. When a new artist waves off dating questions, let it slide. When a veteran finally says, "Here's what really happened," believe them without demanding receipts. Hold labels to the rainbow statements they post in June and ask where those promises hide in December. Stop rewarding gossip accounts that trade in half-baked insinuation. Remember that behind every staged kiss, there might be two people praying for mercy or just two friends who decided a contract was safer than honesty. Which story stuck under your skin? Was it Wilma buying freedom with property deeds and backroom bar licenses? Patsy pouring devotion into late-night calls the world filed under mentorship? Johnny Ray weeping for crowds while executives calculated angles? Vernon Dalhart humming through a marriage built on balance sheets? Tipton turning life into performance art because the alternative was no life at all? Luther's silence that Nashville sculpted into whatever shape it needed? Chelly staring down a camera and choosing sunlight? Or was it the realization that country music's script about authenticity was written in invisible ink all along? Tell me in the comments which twist rattled you, which arrangement felt heartbreakingly practical, which label boss you'd love to grill under a hot stage light. Hit like if you want more deep dives because there are vaults left to open and tapes left to rewind. If Music City could choreograph love for profit, what else is choreographed? What contracts still quote morality clauses in fine print? What young singer just got told to fix that pronoun before the ad date? The vault isn't empty, it's just guarded. Keep listening, keep asking kindly. Publicists in that era acted like fire marshals patrolling a tinderbox. They drafted talking points, rehearsed answers, and staged chance sightings with approved partners. A manager might literally hand an artist a list of safe adjectives before an interview. Reporters who played along got exclusives. Reporters who asked the wrong thing found themselves blacklisted from backstage passes. Radio programmers whispered warnings about family values, a phrase that sounded wholesome but often meant, "Don't scare the sponsors." The same rule book that told singers how to dress also told them who to be seen with, where to sit at award shows, and how long to hold a hand for the camera. No one needed to say lavender marriage out loud. The instructions were baked into itineraries. There was another cost nobody tallied: the art that never happened. Songs that could have existed if fear hadn't clipped pronouns. Duets that might have been recorded if two singers had been allowed to stand side by side without sparking a scandal. Memoirs never written, films never greenlit, tours canceled because a whisper grew fangs. Think about Wilma if she'd been able to write straight to the woman she loved, or Chelly releasing a love song years earlier without the tremor of panic in every chorus. Think about a young session player who never dared to ask her hero out for coffee because the rumor mill would turn it into a career-ending headline. That missing catalog is a silent graveyard of possibilities, and yet secrecy built its own underground network. Quiet phone trees warned who was safe to trust. Backroom bars and living rooms turned into sanctuaries, places where guarded shoulders finally dropped. Older artists coached younger ones on dodging invasive questions, which photographer would crop the wrong person out, which makeup artist could pin a mic while pretending not to hear. Some marriages of convenience even became alliances against cruelty, two people sharing a house they treated like a fort. There's tenderness in that too, a defiant kind of care born of necessity, proof that human connection finds a way even when honesty is barricaded. Country media loved the phrase real-life sweetheart, as if authenticity could be certified like a gold record. Here's the irony. The genre built its brand on telling the truth. Hurt, heartbreak, honesty. Those were the selling points. But the truth was curated, trimmed like a radio edit. The open wound in a lyric could stay, yet the gender behind it had to blur. Fans shouted "Keep it real" from the stands while executives stamped "approved narrative" on bios. That contradiction exhausted performers more than any tour bus bunk. Imagine walking on stage to pour out your soul, then walking off and rewriting your biography so the soul looks straight. Imagine being told your tear-stained ballad was perfect except for one pronoun. Change it and we'll ship to radio. Refuse and we'll find someone else to sing it. That's not just censorship, that's theft of voice. And it wasn't one villain in a tower, it was a system of polite smiles and polite threats. The machine didn't always shout. Most days it whispered, "We love you. We just can't sell you like that." And whispered pressure can feel heavier than any shouted ban. So here's the dare. The next time a glossy profile promises "the real story," read between the commas. Ask who got edited out, who had to swap a pronoun, who was told to pose with a stranger so the label could calm a boardroom. Support the artists who risk honesty even when algorithms punish them. Stream the song that uses the word it actually means. Buy the indie record from the singer who thanks their partner openly in the liner notes. Call out the radio host who snickers at queerness like it's a punchline. Remember that legends are human before they are marketable, and that humanity is messy, nuanced, and not always fit for a Sunday bulletin. Teach new fans that curiosity can be kind, that history has holes where truth was smothered, and that filling those holes requires listening more than prying. If you're an artist watching this, let this be proof you are not alone, that others wore the mask and still found daylight. Your voice belongs to you, not to a chart position, not to a brand manager, not to a committee of anxious investors. Tell your story when you're ready. Shape it how you choose, and if you need a cover while you get there, build one with people who care rather than people who calculate. And if you're just here for the tea, sip it slowly and remember someone's blood flavored it. This isn't gossip, it's a map of scars. Follow it wisely. Be gentle.